Good morning, everybody. So, we're going to try something a little bit different today, and you tell me if it's working or not. I'm going to get the chat window going here and make sure that I can see who's doing stuff. Hey, Paul, what's happening, man? Now, what we're going to try here, ooh, this is going to be interesting, and you'll see kind of what I'm doing, is I am trying to we're going to bring that back on screen. And because I'm trying to get this perfect. So if you're watching on your phone or you're watching on a computer screen or whatnot, trying something new today. I am trying Ecamm's dual mode. Now, what that means is that from my one broadcast here, I'm broadcasting both in landscape mode and in vertical mode. So if you're on YouTube and you just happen to be on a computer, or if you're on Facebook and you're on a computer, you should be seeing the widescreen. If you are on your phone and um, you are looking at YouTube on your phone, you should be seeing just the vertical stream. Now, the cool thing about all of this is that I can do the same thing on both. I can do things differently in both screens. So if you're used to seeing the graphics the way that I have them, for example, on the widescreen right now, I have the Generator Live logo right at the bottom, but on the vertical stream, I don't have anything. Just trying to play with the real estate. So it's really kind of a cool thing. Not only am I broadcasting this in landscape and vertical to YouTube, I'm doing the same thing to Facebook. I can go out to Instagram or, whatever page I want. But I wanted to try this morning and see what you think. So if you happen to be watching and you can switch back and forth between, landscape or vertical, depending on how you're watching it. It's showing up on YouTube as two distinct live streams. So this is really interesting to me, and it's new and exciting. Now, truth be told, I mean, YouTube's had this dual mode now for, I think, a couple of weeks, but it's been interesting to wait for all the streaming software to catch up. And I just think Ecamm, they do it right. They don't try to be first to the market with everything. What they try to do is get it right, especially for Mac users. And so if you're on a Mac and you're thinking about doing some sort of stream, right? Even if you're not streaming, just recording. The thing about this that I love is that I can be recording the video on podcasting. And now I don't have to just film it in landscape and then tweak it to fit vertical. I can get everything set in vertical the way that I want it and then record both versions at the same time. It's actually really, really cool to think about. So I'm going to start playing with this. I just downloaded the beta yesterday. If you go to ecamm.live/beta, you can check this all out and download the beta for yourself. It's free. Do that and test this out. You might have to have an account, but you can get a free trial of Ecamm is basically what I'm saying. Try it out. Try the beta and play with it. Let me know what you think. I think in terms of recording content, it's going to be really neat. Now, let me show you something. I'm going to see if I can do this all correctly and show you like the live demo mode. So you should be seeing, hopefully, some portion of this right now. I don't know if you're going to be seeing it in vertical mode, but showing you the entire screen, if you can see it here, it is side by side. You can see the landscape and the vertical. So just let me know in the chat if you can see that. I don't know if you can or not. I haven't played enough and I'm not watching my own stream. So you tell me. All right, so I'm going to end that live demo. We should be back to normal now. Cool. So Paul is saying I landed on the vertical stream and now in the landscape. Let's see. I need to figure out how to get this. I'm going to bring that back up on screen again. Looks cool. And try to get this looking like that. gonna have to work on the where all the comments land and figure that out as I go, but we'll get going. All right, so let's kind of get into today's coffee talk. I hope you have your coffee. Good morning, Paul. The side by side does look pretty good, man, and I'm really digging how this is all starting to be. But I need to figure out how to get the comments better on the vertical side. But disregardless, as we say here in Boston, disregardless, I think it still works and it's going to be cool. All right, enough of me saying it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. Coffee. Mm. All right. So, got a couple of things that I did want to talk about today, and I'll see if I can bring some of these things up here. All right. So, topics wise, talked a little bit about Ecamm dual mode. And again, this isn't something that everybody is going to use. You don't have to use it live streaming, but I really like the way that I can manipulate both sides. Time will tell. I think I'm going to probably use this more for recording content so that I can set up my scenes and be able to just kind of record everything at once. I don't have to then go into Opus Clips and reconfigure and hope that I get it right, or compress everything into a vertical stream and have it just like a landscape across the middle. I can really kind of play with things here. So this is the Ecamm dual mode. We already talked about that. All right. Now, a couple of things that I'm doing here in the studio. We talked about studio upgrades, and I think it was last week that I talked about how I got a bunch of new backdrops and was putting them up in the studio, and I'd set up some sets and I'd put out a video with all my new backdrops, some from Hand Painted Backdrops UK, some from Oliphant Studios, and have just kind of given the backdrop situation in my studio a little bit of an uplift. So I went ahead and took a video the other day, and I'll just kind of show it to you here, is I set up this main corner, the one that you're looking at right now. That's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 different backdrops. I've got a big gold one from, I think it's Baby Dream Backdrops, or maybe it's Intuition. It's Intuition. And it's the entire back wall. And then I've got the hand painted wheat colored ones in front of it. And then I've got the gold on the far left is the one that I painted. So that is one scene that I set up. This one here that's right underneath the fan is a large blue muslin that goes up that entire wall and then can roll out. I've got another piece that rolls out across the entire floor right in front of it. That I love that blue. I can't even remember who makes that. It's just a blue muslin that I've had forever, and it's gorgeous. All right, as I kind of move around, you can see down in the back, there is the podcast area that I've set up. I've got a couch, I've got some lighting, and we'll see. I think I kind of fade over a little bit. And then this last set that I have here along the right-hand side, it's a little bit out of frame. I didn't really pan over far enough. This gray set here is the new gray Oliphant that I have. And as I start to go down this way, you'll see down that right wall, I have 2 more backdrops set up. I've got another Oliphant backdrop right next to the gray one. I've got another Oliphant backdrop that is brownish and gold. That is the Venice backdrop. And then further down between the podcast area and that brown Oliphant on the right-hand side is a green backdrop that I painted. And that's beautiful as well. Just a rich, deep, verdant green. And it's a gorgeous little set. So I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets completely set up, ready to go. All I have to do is move my lights into position and, maybe add a different chair or whatnot. But the reason I set things up like this in the studio is because I'm trying to do something so that I can dual use it as both the photography studio, personal branding, headshots, all of that, and then also build a rolling podcast desk. The reason I want to build a rolling podcast desk is I've got all this equipment here in the studio, right? I've got all this stuff here. Well, I need to replicate this setup at the studio. That takes a lot of lights, microphones, monitors, all that sort of stuff, right? So my goal is to build a rolling desk that I can use to sit at so that I can do this sort of thing from the studio and talk to you directly from the studio rather than being here at home. But then, so that desk will have, a monitor and a main camera like this. It'll probably also have webcams on either side to give different angles. But I want to set it up so that if people come in and they are wanting to record their own content, they want to record a podcast, or they want to do some vertical or horizontal type of content, I can take the cameras, just turn them around to face wherever we're in front of whatever backdrop, and change the lighting. And now I'm at a production desk able to stream whatever there is that they're doing or record whatever it is that they're doing. So I want to be able to make this, if I have a guest come in, I can just flip this desk around and have a 2-person podcast setup. That's the whole goal of this. So bit by bit by bit, it's getting there. I know I had all these sets set up in the studio before, tore them all down because I was just like, I didn't like the way they looked. It was I was using a ton of different stands. It's a real pain in the ass to be moving all the stands all the time. And I only have so many stands in the studio. But the cool thing was, if we go all the way back over here, and I can't really zoom in, but I'll show you with my mouse here. This dark gold backdrop that is the background, it kind of wraps between both walls. I have that hung up by heavy duty rare earth magnets, and it's a great system. It took a little bit to get the plates mounted on the wall, but once I did, throwing those magnets up made it really easy. So I'm a big believer in using these magnetic sets because it keeps all of those extra stands out of the way. And now I only have one backdrop stand that emits 1, 2, 3, 4 different backdrops. I only have to have one stand. Everything else is on the wall. So that's kind of cool. I dig that. So a lot of this stuff I got from Mondi Mitchell, who is down in New Hampshire. She unfortunately closed her studio, but I was able to pick up a bunch of her gear, and she, gave it to me at a great, great price, and I was able to put it into the studio here. So once again, building, trying to make this studio into not only a photography studio, but a content production studio as well. So time will tell. It's a slow process. You got to make the money to spend the money. So that's what we're working on right now. But it's looking pretty cool. And Paul, who's in here, is going to be coming up. We're going to be doing his personal branding photo soon. I cannot wait to do that. So Paul, you're kind of getting an early look at all the different sets that we have set up, and it's going to be a great time having you in the studio. All right, let's head back to the topic, shall we? I think today is going to go quick. We're supposed to get a huge storm here. If you're anywhere in the United States right now, you're hearing about this weather system that's coming up from the south, and everybody's just going to get hammered with ice and snow and cold. My buddy out in Minnesota right now, Wisconsin, is getting absolutely frozen. He reported to me it's like minus 19, but it feels like minus 30. And we're talking Fahrenheit, we're not talking Celsius. So it's going to be really cold. I know here in Maine, it's supposed to start getting real cold tonight. And I think it's supposed to be minus 9 or minus 15 or something like that tonight. Tomorrow, I don't believe it's getting above 0. They've actually closed one of the local ski resorts because it's going to be so brutally cold. They just can't risk putting people out in that cold. And it's going to be windy. And then there's going to be a weather system moving in Saturday night, Sunday. And between Sunday and Monday, we're supposed to get a foot or foot and a half of snow. So today is all of these things that I've got to get done: prep the snowblower, get the gas, get all my salt pellets and, outdoor gear and emergency stuff set up, because if we lose power, we lose power. And so I've got to get my generator all squared away and, all the stuff that you do last minute before a storm because you failed to prep earlier in the season. That's what I'm going to be doing today. And I'm sure everybody else is as well. All right. So that's the storm. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, One of the things that I've struggled with in doing this pivot into video is creating enough content that I don't have to create new content every single day. And there's a guy named Pat Flynn, great YouTuber, great online social media presence. Pat Flynn came up with a 30-day challenge, and it launched about 2 weeks ago, where you're supposed to put a video out every day on Instagram and YouTube. And you're basically repurposing the same video, but it goes on YouTube and it goes on Instagram, and you do it every day for 30 days, and it creates consistency, and it's supposed to help grow your numbers. Well, I got super sick like 2 weeks ago, and the day that I was supposed to start, it was on the 5th. Yeah, so it's been about 19 days. I was supposed to start and got super sick, and I've just been destroyed by whatever this sinus thing is going on. And it really knocked me out. So I missed, the first week and a half, 2 weeks of this 30-day challenge. But I said, all right, well, I can't necessarily take part in that challenge, but I can still produce 30 videos. So I started thinking about series, and I said, I want to create a series of short form videos, 1 minute videos that I can put out to help people learn how to have better conversations online, especially when it comes to podcasting and doing some sort of interview. Like I said, I've been behind this mic in some way, shape, or form for the past 25 years and have learned a lot about interviewing because I've screwed up so many interviews and I've done all the wrong things. So I was writing the book, and I said, well, why don't I distill down some of the main points from the book and make a video series about it? So what I did was I created podcast interview skills in 30 days. I know it's a super sexy title, and you are never going to forget this, but there's something about simplicity in my mind. So podcast interview skills in 30 days. I even made a little badge. Look at that. It's kind of nice and cool and graphic. I made that in AI. So what I did is I wrote my scripts. They're all 1 minute pieces of content. 1 minute, 1 minute, 10 seconds, thereabouts. Really bite-sized, digestible chunks. And this is going to launch on Monday. So if you're interested, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. This is launching on, let's make sure that the date is right. Is it the 26th? Yes. It'll launch on Monday, January 26th. Podcast interview skills in 30 days. And this is really aimed at people that are trying to host a podcast or have conversations, or even if you just get into a conversation and you want to have deeper, more meaningful dialogue, then these tips are going to help you think about your own presence, the types of questions you ask, the interpersonal skills that you have to have with your guest, doing your research, preparing for the interview, the things that you need to do when there is silence, or when you get terrible answers, or when you panic and forgot to listen to what the guest was saying. These are going to be the types of tips that help you. All of it to say, this does not have to be a complicated process. You need to relax. You need to prepare a little bit. You need to have some skills developed, but it's okay to take the time to develop those, which is why I'm doing this over 30 days, so that you get something fresh every day. You get to look at it, you get to understand it, and then just ask me questions. I think it's going to be great. All of the cover art is going to look like this, but every day it's going to be a different topic. So I'll be doing this for the next 30 days, starting Monday, and it should wrap up just before WPPI. Now, the reason I did that, and let me take a sip of my coffee here. So the 30 days of podcasting interview skills starts on Monday the 26th. That runs for 30 days. It should end right around February 26th, 27th, provided nothing goes wrong. That week, which is like a Thursday, Friday, 26th, 27th, I leave on Sunday to go to WPPI. You've heard me going back and forth over the past several. You know what? I'm going to pause for a second. I want to look back at this. Kelly is here. Kelly, good morning, my friend. I'm so glad that you're here. And then Paul is saying I'm starting an interview series. Actually, about to go into an in-person interview today. Awesome, man. I'm so happy for that. I'm really happy that you're creating this content. So let me go back, and I'm going to stop talking for a second and then just start over, because maybe I can clip this up and do something for social. Maybe we can see if we can format this in both landscape and vertical and do something for short form content. Ooh, look at me. All right. So you've heard me talking over the past couple of weeks about whether or not I wanted to go to WPPI, which is that first week of March, going out in Las Vegas, out at the Rio. And I was really kind of going back and forth. Is it going to be worth going to see Annie Leibovitz and to see my friends and network, or was it going to be financially just too much for me? It's expensive to go out and try to go to WPPI. But after having some conversations and really thinking about it, I am going out to WPPI 2026 because I'll be doing a Generator Live episode on stage at WPPI the first day that the trade show is open, Tuesday. I'll be there at, I believe, 3:15 to 4 o'clock in the main trade show area. I'll be doing Generator Live on stage. I cannot wait to be doing this. I think it's going to be an incredible time. You have to be there. If you're going to be there, please come see me in the audience. I know that there's a lot of other classes going on, but I strategically chose that point because I think most of the classes and photo walks are done. It's kind of the end of the first day. People are coming out of their classes. They'll be going into the trade show, and it's a great time to come see me do an episode of Generator Live. And yeah, Kelly, it is pretty amazing. I'm really stoked to be able to do this. I can't wait to do this live in front of an audience. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I have no idea what guest I'm going to have on. So you guys are going to help me figure that out between now and WPPI. I'd love to know, who is it that you want to see on stage? What are the topics that you want me to cover? I think we have a chance here to really bring podcasts to the front and have this kind of dialogue right on stage in front of a lot of people. So I could not be more excited to be doing this. And yeah, Josh, I can't wait to see you, my friend. I would love to see you there. Maybe I'll bring you on stage. I don't know. If the money's right from you, brother, I'll bring you on stage, right? Nothing below $100. And then, yeah, Kelly, yeah, this is going to be amazing. I cannot wait to do this. So I just haven't thought about it. I was on the fence for so long. I would usually plan something like this in advance, but I haven't had a chance to even think about it. So now I'm in crunch mode. I'm going, oh God, all right. So if I'm going to be on stage, now I have to have something to put up on the screen as like a freebie or a giveaway, because everybody does that, right? I don't want to miss the chance for people to scan a QR code and join the email list and become part of the family and part of the community. So I got to think about, what am I giving away, or what am I having people sign up for? What's the content that I want to bring up there? I think I have about 45 minutes. So it'll be a shorter episode. Do I want to do interviews with multiple people? Do I want to have a panel? Do I want it to just be me talking like this to you? And I do a little bit of, video magic? Tell me. I'd love to find out in the comments. If you're seeing this today, or if you're seeing it another time, let me know what you want to see. We'll build this thing together. And I think that's kind of the cool part of this, is that we can have the community build the show. And provided I get enough feedback, that's what I'll do. Let me know who you want to see. I don't think that I'll be able to get someone like an Annie Leibovitz, right? So just don't even go there. But think about, some of the guests that I've had. If you're going to be there and you haven't been on the show, talk to me. Maybe we can work something out. So I think it's going to be a really exciting time. I know I'm stoked to be able to go out there. I feel incredibly fortunate to have this opportunity. And oh, sweet. I'm going to try here. I want to try to do it live for sure. I want to try to do this live. I'd love to have my laptop up there. I'd love to be streaming it in a way. But as we know, internet at these trade shows is abysmal. So, provided I can get a hardwired connection, maybe that's something I can do. Regardless, I'll be recording the whole thing and putting it out hopefully that evening. So, even if I can't stream it live, which I really hope I can do because that's what I really want to do, even if I can't stream it live, I'll be recording the whole thing and then we'll have a special episode after that. Yeah, I would love to have real conversation with real photographers and talk about some of the stuff that, you know, isn't just glossy, fresh, perfect topics, right? I'd love to get a little bit deep. One person that I'd love to have up there, and I've never interviewed them, and I'd love to, is Seth Miranda. I think Seth Miranda would just be a hell of a guest. And if Seth, if you're listening, awesome. I would love to have you up there. I think you'd be amazing. I know you're pulled in a million directions during WPPI and you're at booth after booth after booth. But think about it, man. If we can swing it, maybe that's something you want to talk to me about. I'd love to have you on stage. I think your attitude, my attitude, and the capability to be 100% completely honest with the audience would be a blast. So maybe Jerry Guionis, who knows? We'll bring somebody up there and have a great conversation. I'm really excited too, Kelly. I really wish I'd be able to see you there because I'd have you up. But yeah, who knows what's going to happen. So that was kind of like the big announcement. Then while I'm there, I'll be there from Sunday until Thursday. So I arrive Sunday, take off on Thursday, but I'll be there the entire week. I just know that I'll be prepping on Monday. Tuesday, I'll do the show. Wednesday, and then probably part of Thursday morning, I'll be talking to other people and getting some more footage. I'm going about this trip a little bit differently. And I would like to capture a lot more content than I normally do. Normally I go and I just interact with people. I'd like to, I think, make a nice little video out of my trip to WPPI. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm not one that loves to take out their phone and start recording at an airport or anything like that, but we'll see if I can do it surreptitiously. What does Josh have to say here? Have you ever thought about having conversations with fake photographers? I love this plot twist, right? So I like where this is going. Maybe I'll bring in one of those guys that just slaps the cards on the street, on the strip at Vegas and bring him on stage. Not sure if he'll speak English or not, but who knows? Bring him on stage. We'll get some escort cards out there. And I think that would be a fun time. We could throw them out in the audience and people can scan the QR codes, right? I'm all about uplifting whatever industry we're in. Kelly's on board for that. So yeah, let's make that happen. Take that idea and run with it. And that's the moneymaker. I think this is what's going to happen, man. If I could make money doing that, if I could just slap those cards and give them to tourists and make some money, like I'll do it. I got nothing to do on that Monday. So I have no problem standing on the strip and just flipping those things and getting people's attention, standing outside Margaritaville or wherever it is. All right. So WPPI, March 1st through 5th at the Rio in Las Vegas. Come see me do Generator live. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. Don't know who the guest is going to be. Don't know how we're going to go about it yet, but those are the meetings that I have to have between now and then. So the more input you give me, the better. So WPPI is coming up. It's coming up soon. It's coming up in what, 4.5 weeks. And I'm not ready for this. So the next 4 weeks is going to be a lot of work for me. All right. We're switching from coffee to Celsius. Cheers. I know it's kind of gross to be drinking and eating on camera, but that's the whole point of this. It's coffee with me on Friday mornings. So I think there was first day with the new lips. All right, let me go back to this. So I'm sitting around last night, and one of the things that I do, I sit in the living room and I try to get caught up on YouTube videos. I watch them on the TV, and I kind of scan through some of the folks that I subscribe to. And one of the things that I love to watch, and I don't know if you watch this, is Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Chuck Nice, and they bring on different physicists and different guests to talk about the cosmos. And I love that shit. I'm just all about it. So last night I was watching it, and they had Brian Greene on. And if you don't know Brian Greene is a theoretical physicist, and he is big into, I mean, his main theoretical research is in particle physics and string theory and how the universe is made and what space is made of and so on and so forth. Really just absolutely brilliant guy. So he was on last night, and it's one of the more recent episodes, I believe. You should go back and listen to it, because at the very beginning they have a conversation about AI and art, right? So we have this conversation quite a lot about what AI is doing to art. You heard me talk all about Evotogate last week, and you saw all the shorts that came out about it. So they were talking about, you know, so many artists, not just photographers and not just, we're talking artists in general, are afraid that AI is going to take over and put them out of jobs. And Brian had a really interesting point that I actually wrote down. I wrote down some notes while I was watching it because it made such an impact. And, he said the same thing that a lot of us say is like, when the camera was invented, they thought it was going to put painters out of business. And then when digital was invented, they thought it was going to put film cameras out of business. None of that ever happened. What he said, and I'll kind of read from my notes here, is that the camera captured reality. And what that did was it freed up painters to stop trying to paint reality, and it allowed them to interpret the world in a different way, giving rise to Impressionism and Surrealism and the explosion of different types of painted artwork. And I hadn't really thought about it in that way, where we think, a technology is just going to replace what came before it. And that's not the case. What it does is it allows artists to now start thinking in different ways. So my corollary to that was, all right, well, if AI comes along and it says it's going to replace the camera and photographers, well, what's AI doing? It's doing the work of little jobs that we don't necessarily love doing, and it's taking away some of the easy stuff. What it allows photographers to do is free themselves up to use their tools in different ways. How do we start creating different types of art in photography? Now, I'm not so naive as to think that I know everything there is to know about the craft of photography and all the different genres and subgenres. And there's plenty of people that are doing really cool, surreal, impressionistic style photography. And right, that's part of the craft. But I think it will give a lot of artists that don't think in those directions the ability to really start reaching out with their cameras and creating something totally different that the world hasn't seen before. So I really like that. Now, I have not gone back and fact checked, the invention of the camera and then the overlap with some of these painters, these artists, and where the rise and fall and the sinusoidal wave of what took over and what took its place. I haven't done that research yet. I was watching a podcast last night. I thought it was really funny to look at things that way, and it really got me thinking in a different direction. I just love the argument that it doesn't replace photographers. It gives us now the freedom to think about using our cameras in different ways. And that to me was exactly what I needed to hear at exactly the right time. I felt immediately less concerned about AI, right? We know that it will never be able to capture the same type of reality that we see, the same type of experience that we create for people when they come into the studio, they pose in front of us, or, you know, wherever we may be taking a photo on the street or whatever. But what it can do is just create, you know, some basic stuff. Hey, this is what a person looks like walking down the street. But then we, with our infinite creativity, can do something completely different, interpret that scene a completely different way, and then show the world what that is. And that's what AI can't do. It can't interpret the way that we can interpret. So, all right, Kelly, what are you saying here? Oh boy, we've got big comments. So sorry that they're here twice, but I'm all for AI being the issues, job losses, topic, using photography to create a different way. I love the concept, but I feel like AI can still mimic it anyways. Yeah, I'm not saying that this is going to be, very, very, very easy to skate past. The job loss is definitely going to be real, not debating that. I just think it's not the disaster for creativity that we think it is, right? That will never be replaced. I think if we foster it, if we build those creative skills, then AI does become the tool. It becomes something that helps us. Perhaps we incorporate it in a different way, right? When the Matrix came out, no one had ever seen like bullet time before, right? But those guys at the time used the technology to string all these cameras together and create something that was created in camera, but they had to use the technology at their hands to capture that footage in a certain way. And I mean, all video is just pictures anyway, right? But I love thinking about it that way. How do we use the technology to give us the, like you said, Kelly, the opportunity to create instead of the hustle? That this is the point that I'm trying to get at. And I'm sorry on the vertical stream you can't see the comment. I'll work on that as I get this whole thing better. But it gives us the opportunity to create. That's the point that I'm getting at. It gives us the opportunity to not compete with it, but to create beyond it. And that's where I get excited. How do I use AI in such a way that I can create beyond it? All right. So I'm not going to spend like the rest of my time here on AI. I've already been rambling for 40 minutes, but the point was I thought it was really interesting. Go back and listen to it. It's like within the first 5 or 10 minutes of that episode, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Greene in one of the more recent episodes. Now, they go on for the next hour and they're talking about all sorts of particle physics. That's what I studied when I was in college. My senior year, I was a physics major, and so my senior year really got into quantum mechanics, right? Because quantum mechanics was really just starting to come to the forefront in the early 90s. And that's when I was in college at the time. So we were really on the forefront of quantum particle physics, string theory, all these sorts of things. They were real new concepts. And I loved the fact that I could break down the universe into these smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller particles. So last night they were talking about this stuff and they're talking about quarks. And if you don't know what quarks are, like you get to an atom and then you get smaller, and what makes up the atoms and the electrons is the quarks. And you've got 6 different quarks: the up quark, down quark, strange, and then there's the left and the right. So there's a bunch of different quarks. The newer thinking is that, all right, well, if there's these 6 quarks, there's something called supersymmetry, and now there's another 6 quarks, another 6 particles that we haven't discovered yet. I won't go into it because I'll destroy it trying to explain it. But the point being, at one point, Neil deGrasse Tyson, they were talking about Enrico Fermi and some of the stuff that he had developed way back when, and he was like, yeah, at that point, these guys were just making shit up. And Brian Greene said, yeah, they were geniuses, and geniuses make up shit that's right. And I thought that was one of the funniest things that I had heard, because I think that's exactly it. Anybody can make up anything and think up anything, and it'll most likely be proven wrong. But the geniuses, they're the ones that just think stuff up and then get proven right. I I love that. And I started thinking about, like, how does that relate to other areas of our life? Who are the musicians that do the things that no one's ever heard before? The Jimi Hendrixes of the world, the Mozarts, right? Where they take their art, their craft, and they just take it beyond wherever it is in the accepted way right now, because they know in their heart of heart and their mind of minds that they are pushing the forefront of their field. And I love thinking about that, especially as it relates to physics, right? The real geniuses make up stuff that then gets proven right. The Higgs boson, and I won't go into Higgs field and that far, but the Higgs boson, this guy named Higgs, developed the theory of the Higgs boson being one of these particle fields. And it took like 30 years for him to be proven right, but he knew it. And everybody called him crazy at the beginning, and everybody said he was a lunatic for thinking this way. 30 years later, CERN gets developed, super colliders get developed, and now we have the Higgs boson being proven. And so I love that geniuses make up shit that's right. I want to make that as a t-shirt, and I love seeing Matt the Nerd come out. Dude, Matt the Nerd is always out. I'm always here. But man, I could talk about this stuff forever. I just have such horrendous ADHD that when I try to explain the things, I'm like, you don't know what's in my head, and I'm trying to fragment and explain it to you without explaining it clearly from beginning to end. I don't do well with that. So, that all being said, geniuses make up shit that's right. I love that. I'm attributing it to Brian Greene. It's not my quote, but that was one of the funniest things that I saw come out of that Star Talk episode. If you have the chance, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson is kind of like an arrogant ass, but the dude is smart and he's funny, and I got to give credit where credit is due. He brings on these guests that really make me think and challenge my own beliefs, and then also reignite my love of physics and the universe. And they said some things on this episode that will absolutely blow your mind. If you have a joint or an edible or a bong sitting nearby, make sure that you utilize that before you watch this episode, because it will absolutely blow your mind. Some of the things that current particle physics theoreticians, what's that word? I can't think of it. The guys that think up the theories of physics, theoretical physics, those guys. It's amazing what they're coming up with these days. All right. I have no idea what the lag is, but I'm watching between the comments and then what I'm doing here. I think there's probably about a 10 or 15-second lag between what I say and what you hear. So forgive me if there's this little bit of back and forth. All right. All that being said, that's really what I wanted to cover today. But I did want to talk about one more thing, and I wanted to set up something for next week. I may go live again on Monday, depending on the weather. But I wanted to set this up for a topic that we're going to talk about next week. I had a guy come into the studio yesterday, and he's kind of a local friend of mine, a colleague, and he wants to start recording videos for certain series that he's putting together. He's been teaching a certain methodology to men and to couples for 20 years. And he wants to get some of it on video and start putting it out. And, doing little shorts, then testing it, see how it goes, to see if it's worthwhile to record a longer series. And I love that approach because it's kind of like the crawl, walk, run methodology. Let's do a little bit, see if it gets hold, see if people are interested. And if they're not, switch it around after doing a little bit of beta testing and then put out a better product. And I like that approach to everything. But it got me thinking about how many times I have the conversation, especially with photographers that want to get into video, about the best way to go about it. Because photography and video are so so closely linked that there's not a whole lot that you need to understand differently about video versus photography. But you have to have a really strong desire and focus and plan to use that video. Why are you creating it? Why are you creating the video? Why do you want to put this out? How do you want to put it out? Who's your audience? What's the niche? And it got me thinking about how much bigger the conversation is about video than it is about a light or a camera or a monitor or a teleprompter, right? All the gear stuff is easy. I can spend your money all day long and just tell you what gear to buy, and you set it up and it all looks good, and you will look good, and it will fall flat because you don't have a plan for what you want to do with the video. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be Joe Rogan. I don't want to make a lot of money. Then why the hell are you doing it? If you're just doing it for fun and it's just a hobby, great. But at that point, if you're coming to someone like me for all this advice and whatnot, it makes me think that you're taking it a little bit more seriously, or otherwise you just grab your phone and you do it just for the fun of it. So it got me thinking, there are so many different ways to be able to market the videos these days that we really need to start changing the conversation about how we talk about it. You can create long form content and then break that up into shorts and then distribute that content through email or through, whatever platform you're on. You could just create short form content and spread that across platforms and try to get that out. You can create a course, which is either short form modules, long form modules in a collection, a series, or just individually. Sell those on something like Gumroad, or you create a community in school or Learn Worlds or, any one of the platforms that are out there. You can use those videos to sell digital products. I say all of this to say you can do any one of those things. A lot of people try to do all of them at once. Like this guy, I try to do everything at once and I think it through to the point of overthinking. But I started thinking, what are your favorite practices when it comes to video? I want to know, like I really want to understand beyond what I think, because this isn't always right. And I know I don't know an iota of everything. I just want to hear from other people what their best practices, their methodology, their philosophy for doing this. Why are you doing it? I know for me, there's a couple of reasons. I started doing podcasts and I started doing video specifically in relation to Stone Tree Creative, in relation to the photography studio. I've been doing video a long time, but let's look at kind of the modern age of when I've been doing this, past the radio stations, past the TV stations, stuff that I'm doing now for me. I started looking at video to supplement what I was doing with photo. I wanted to create video for my website so that I could educate clients, so that they could see me and we could start building that little bit of trust and education right out of the gate. People show up to the website, they get to hear about how I go through my process, the things that I do. I loved being able to do that. As Generator grew and I started to separate out the brands, now I've got two brands that I need to think about video. And it's both me, and I've got my photography side and I've got my podcasting side. I know that I'm trying to grow the podcasting side to eventually replace the photo side. That's the plan. And so this whole time that I've been doing this, I'm like, all right, well, I've got to have an email audience for Stone Tree. I've got to have an email audience for listeners of Generator. Then that creates another segment of my email list that is creators that are interested in these things. And then there are local people, then there are clients, then there are, industry contacts. So I've got all these different segments of my email list. which isn't large. I'm just saying I've got it segmented out to do all this stuff. And then I started thinking, like, why am I trying to manage the two brands? Because it's just me, and I'm thinking about how I communicate with everybody in the most efficient way possible. I started thinking about it, and I'm like, wouldn't it make more sense for you, Josh, or Kelly, or Paul, or whoever, to get one email from Matt Stagliano that then has information underneath it about, hey, here's my latest episode. Hey, here's some stuff that I'm doing with my photography clients. Hey, here's me mountain biking. Doing it more as a personal brand rather than the brand of the company. Now, I don't know if this is the right way to go about it, but I started thinking about that. And I realized that if I condense everything under kind of the Matt Stagg brand, that it allows me to feel less rigid. Like I have to do things for a certain polished corporate brand like Stone Tree or for Generator. And I make it a little bit wider and a little bit more open because what I'm finding is I love just being me. I'm not trying to be performative anymore. I'm not trying to be someone that I'm not. And I'm finding that all of these different facets of the personality are all valid. So why don't I just condense everything kind of under the brand of me, right? And I'm not making any comparisons, but you think someone like Alex Hermosi or Gary Vaynerchuk, you don't think about their individual companies that they run. You think about the person because they're doing all of these different things. And quite frankly, I'm just involved in too many different projects to try to do the same structured approach to marketing for every single brand. So I think that's where I'm heading. I was trying to set up a new website for Generator yesterday, right? In preparation for WPPI. I was trying to set up a new website yesterday. And as I was building it and designing it, I was thinking, maybe I can do this a different way. And I'm not quite sure. I'd love to hear from more people about what their philosophy is for their brands. And especially if you are expanding in different ways than you've been before. And if you're going about it the same way for every different brand, or if you're just kind of using your name as the brand and everybody just knows you as you. That's always been uncomfortable for me. So maybe it's something everybody does, and I'm just now coming to grips with it all. I've always been very uncomfortable with that, but I'm finding that all roads are pointing in that direction. But let me know what you think. Would you rather see me continue down separate paths of Generator and Stone Tree and seeing that content separated out? Or when you think of the stuff that I'm creating, you just kind of think of it under Matt Stagliano. And I'm curious, I've never asked this question of anybody before, and I'd love to understand what you think because that is going to dictate how I go forward with my marketing. There are so many ways to do this. There are so many ways that are valid. There are so many ways for you to be able to create content and get it out there to the right audience, no matter the size of the audience, no matter the platform, there is someone there that is waiting to hear what you have to say. I'm just curious if you think of it like Think Media versus the guys that are on Think Media? Or do you think about an Alex Hormozy and not think about his companies? Right. So, kind of the same thing from two different ends of the spectrum. And speaking of spectrum, I'm going to overthink it because of who I am, but want to know your thoughts on that. All right. And that's where I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Let me know what you think about what you want to see at WPPI, who you want to see on stage, the type of show that you want to see. Think about the getting subscribed to the podcast interview series that's starting on Monday. So if you're not subscribed here, subscribe and you'll just get notifications of every day something will be coming out. And then let me know what you think about this concept of a personal brand replacing the different companies that you could possibly put out there, right? Your different brands. is it better to just have that umbrella brand? Some people say yes, some people say no. I'm undecided on it, which is why I ask you the question. But let me know all this different stuff down in the comments. I'm going to read them all. I'm going to respond to them all because I think if you're spending any time listening and commenting, you deserve the respect of a reply. And so I will give you that. All you have to do is, whether it's in Facebook or YouTube, just put something down below. I'll comment on it. So anyway, that's it. I took up an hour of your time. Thank you for spending your morning coffee time with me. I hope you found it a little bit useful. Next week, we'll get into some things that are a little bit more practical. I know I talk about a lot of updates here and there, but I think I'm going to come up with a couple of new segments that are repeatable week over week. I'm starting to find my flow with this. Don't know if I'm going to continue with the Wednesday night sessions. I really like doing the Friday morning shows, but maybe I'll start doing a morning show a couple of days a week rather than trying to do something at night and something in the morning and capturing different times of audiences. So anyway, all one big experiment. Obviously, this is the off season of Generator, so we're just building and planning and creating and trying to set up the next stage of, well, whatever's next. So thanks for hanging out. As always, you guys are the greatest. Please, please, please stay in touch. Tell people about this. Join my email list. All that stuff is in descriptions, or go to my website and just sign up for the email list, and I'll get you on the distribution. But do all that stuff, and just know that I appreciate you guys even showing up for a few minutes. Thank you all, and I'll talk to y'all soon. All right? Be safe. Have a great weekend. Stay warm, and I'll see you next week. Bye.